Well, Francesca Albanese is the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories. She joins us now live from New York. Good to have you with us. So tell us how this report, does it represent a step forward in documenting, in the UN's documenting of life under occupation for the Palestinians?
Thank you, Somi. I think it does and it does not. It does in the sense that it builds on the conclusions and findings of my predecessor that Israel commits the crime of apartheid in the occupied Palestinian territory, but brings it forward, saying that apartheid is a natural consequence. It's an organic consequence of settler colonialism, for the same reason that the General Assembly, until 30 years ago, was describing the current reality in the occupied Palestinian territory, a violation of the right of self-determination, and inscribing it in the context of colonial practices. This discourse has sort of toned down in recent years because of the Oslo process, but this is where it still belongs. The Palestinian situation is a cause that calls for decolonization.
I'm sure you're aware that the report has been accused, and you've been accused of being anti-Semitic. How do you respond to that?
Of course, I do not agree, and I find it very convenient dismissing anyone who raises criticism against the current practices of the Israeli government as anti-Semitic. This is convenient because it allows them not to engage with the substance of fully, solidly documented reports. And again, I want to stress that this is anti-Semitic. The anti-Semitic label is being used for human rights mechanisms and reputable NGOs at international and domestic level against Palestinians and Israelis. So this is why I'm saying it's very convenient, but I hope that others can see that.
There are, of course, a number of international organizations, credible organizations, that have described how Israel is ruling Palestinians as an occupation, even as an apartheid, including an Israeli human rights organization, B'Tselem. Are you surprised at how you've been singled out and this report has been singled out to be accused of anti-Semitism?
It has not been singled out. And again, as I say, everyone who raises a critical voice vis-a-vis what Israel is doing is labeled as anti-Semitic. And B'Tselem has been probably the most vocal, but not the first Israeli organization to point to the conduct of Israel and Israeli occupation as an apartheid, because there is another Israeli organization, Yesh Din, who had made the same argument just a few months before. So there is a wall-to-wall consensus that what Israel is doing is apartheid. And again, I say it's a natural consequence of the fact that Israel maintains a settler colonial occupation in the occupied territory, because it violates the territorial sovereignty of the Palestinians, it acquires natural resources of the Palestinians, it represses any form of Palestinian political activity and activism, and it tends to erase the Palestinian cultural identity. This is what settler colonialism is about.
All right, you mentioned there consensus arriving amongst all these international organizations. But the question then remains, what happens to this report, to reports like the one which you've produced? Will it actually have any impact on the daily reality of life?
Yeah, I should have qualified the wall-to-wall consensus among human rights lawyers. The human rights community has unified in exposing the apartheid practices that Israel puts in place. Of course, this is still to be absorbed and acted upon by member states. And it's clear, this is why I say it's the right of self-determination that imposes obligations on Israel, but also upon all member states, because the right of self-determination is erga omnes. It entails obligations for everyone. So international law is as valid and as strong as the will of states to enforce it. So I still remain hopeful that they will be able to walk the talk of legality and morality. Otherwise, the entire UN system, the entire international community will be tarnished.
The report makes the point that this occupation is, as you put it, a form of settler colonialism. Explain to us what sort of practices led you to that conclusion.
First of all, the right of self-determination is the right of all people to determine their political future, to express their political will, and enjoy their economic development. It's the right to exist as a people. And Israel prevents the four components of the right of self-determination, as I said, by fragmenting, seizing, annexing territory that on which international consensus is that this belongs to the state of Palestine, which, by the way, it's 22% of what was historical Palestine. So this is the first violation of the territorial dimension of the right of self-determination. But also there is part of this acquisition translates into economic exploitation for the benefit of businesses and the settler, the colonies, at the expense of the use of water, land, quarries and oil for the Palestinians, so at the detriment of a potential Palestinian economy. But also, you see, when Shireen Abu Akleh was killed, the running after the pallbearers carrying the coffin and the flag is emblematic of where does Israel stand vis-à-vis any symbol of Palestinian identity, which is the third element, erasure of culture. And of course, also there is the prevention of political will and political activity that is epitomized by the fact that Israel now not only prevents the formation of an authentic and free political will, but also repressing reputable human rights organizations trying to protect Palestinian freedom. So there is no freedom under occupation.
All right. Thank you so much, Francesca Albanese there.